Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 94 of Belonging. Today, we're going to be starting our sampler series, where we're going to be looking at these really big books. For instance, well, now I don't see it. I thought that Moby Dick was like one of the first ones, but, for instance, Moby Dick, and we're going to, we're gonna just read like an episode long portion of it and find out how much we like it, and not bother with trying to complete these books, but just see what are they like. These books that are so-called classics and like, oh my god, best book ever and such. Let's give them a check-in and see what they're like. And without like beforehand, I would have been all like, who am I to say if this is good or not without knowing the full context between why people think this is good? But screw that. For the purpose of this series, we're gonna just surface level, do we like what we're reading, and not bother with trying to be too elitist or anything crazy with it. We must have overwritten Moby Dick, so I'll have to undo that in a different episode. But until then, let's see which ones are the big ones, and we'll check that. But also, I want to check my thoughts, see if there's anything new in my thoughts. I don't see anything new here. No. Eventually, I should harvest one of every crystal. Did I already do that? I don't know if I already did that. Alright, we already read this. We already read Goose Girl. We already read Thus Spoke Zarathustra 1. We already read this terrible, scary book. We modded in. Poems. I don't know. Maybe we already read that. Metamorphosis. Yes, we read that. Six Swans. Read that. Fables 1. I mean, I've read that on my own time before. Fables, it's Aesop's, yeah, Aesop's Fables, so I don't want to do it again. Since we already read the first book of Thus Spoke Zarathustra, I don't think I'm going to do a sampler of the rest. We've already got a sampler, and I do kind of, so far out of all the books we've read, I do think the Zarathustra books are some of the most interesting so far. We've already read that. Book Zarathustra 3, Iliad, no, never Iliad. Nibelungenlied. Well, we haven't read this, so, well, I guess we'll go in with this. Who knows who wrote it? Who knows what the context of this is? We're just going in blind. Let's see. Let me start a timer so I know how long that I'm spending here. I know that people coming in this episode are like, why won't you just start? Just do it. But no, I want to start. Okay, now I will start. The Nibelungenlied. Here's hoping I'm pronouncing that anywhere near correct, but I'm not gonna go looking it up. You're just gonna have to deal with it. First adventure. Kriemhild's Dream. Kriemhild's Dream 1. In stories of our father's high marvels, we are told of champions well approved in perils manifold, of feasts and merry meetings, of weeping and of wail, and deeds of gallant daring I'll tell you in my tale. In Burgundy there flourished a maid so fair to see, that in all the world together a fairer could not be. This maiden's name was Kriemhild, through her in dismal strife, full many a prowest warrior thereafter lost his life. Many a fearless champion, as such well became, wooed the lovely lady. She from none had blame. Matchless was her person, matchless was her maid. This one maiden's virtue graced all womankind. 3 puissant kings her guarded with all the care they might. Gunther, eke Gernot, each a redoubted knight. And Giselher the youthful, a chosen champion he. This lady was their sister, well loved of all the three. So far, it's given me slight Dark Souls vibes, but I know that's the thing of like the meme of just everything is Dark Souls. But they were high of lineage, thereto mild of mood, but in field and foray, champions fierce and rude. They ruled a mighty kingdom, Burgundy by name. They wrought in Etzel's country deeds of deathless fame. At Worms was their proud dwelling, the fair Rhine flowing by. There had they suit and service from haughtiest chivalry, for broad lands and lordships, and glorious was their state, till wretchedly they perished by too noble ladies' hate. Dame Uta was their mother, a queen both rich and sage, their father hight Donkrat, who the fair heritage left to his noble children when he his course had run. He too by deeds of knighthood in youth had worship won. Each of these three princes, as you have heard me say, were men of mighty puissance. They had beneath their sway the noblest knights for liegemen that ever dwelt on ground, for hardihood and prowess were none so high renowned. There was Hagen of Trony of a noble line, his brother nimble Dankwart, and the knight of Metz or Twine, Eckwart and Gary, the margraves stout in fight, Poker of Alzea, full of manly might. For the record, I've pretty much all of these names are going in one ear and out the other. I'm terrible with names in reading, and when they just in the first 4 pages introduce like 70 characters, this is not going well for me. Rumult the steward, a chosen knight was he. Sindalt and Hunalt, these served the brethren three, at their court discharging their several duties well. Besides, knights had they many whom now I cannot tell. Dankwart was marshal to the king his lord, Ortwine of Metz, his nephew, was carver at the board. Sindalt, he was butler, a champion choice and true. The chamberlain was Hunalt, they well their duties knew. I'm just giggling. The more they say these names, the more ridiculous it feels. The gorgeous pomp and splendor, wherein these brethren reigned, how well they tended knighthood, what worship they attained. How they throw life were merry, and mocked at woe and bale. Who seeked all this to tell you, would never end his tale. A dream was dreamt by Crimeheld, the virtuous and the gay, how a wild young falcon she'd trained for many a day, till 2 fierce eagles tore it, to her there could not be in all the world such sorrow at this perforce to see. To her mother Uta at once the dream she told, but she the threatening future could only thus unfold. The falcon that thou traintest is sure a noble mate. God shield him in his mercy, or thou must lose him straight. A mate for me? What sayest thou, dearest mother mine? Ne'er to love assurest thee, my heart will I resign. I'll live and die a maiden, and end as I began, nor, let what else befall me, will suffer woe for man. Nay, said her anxious mother, renounce not marriage so. Wouldst thou true heartfelt pleasure taste ever here below? Man's love alone can give it. Thou art fair as I can see. A fitting mate God send thee, and naught will wanting be. No more, the maiden answered, no more, dear mother, say. From many a woman's fortune this truth is clear as day, that falsely smiling pleasure with pain requites us ever. I from both will keep me, and thus will sorrow never. So, in her lofty virtues, fancy free and gay, lived the noble maiden many a happy day. Nor one more than another found favor in her sight. Still, at last she wedded a far-renowned knight. He was the self-same falcon she in her dream had seen. "Oh, it's Griffith, it's Griffith!" foretold by her wise mother. What vengeance took the queen on her nearest kinsman who him to death had done? That single death atoning died many a mother's son. Second Adventure of Siegfried. Was that just literally the end of something, or is this? Are they? I hope they're all connected, because otherwise that ended really quick. I hope they're not like a collection of completely separate tales like the Aesop's fables. In Netherland then flourished a prince of lofty kind, whose father was called Sigmund, his mother Sieglind, in a sumptuous castle down by the Rhine's far side. Men did call it Xanten, was famous far and wide. I tell you of this warrior, how fair he was to see. From shame and from dishonor lived he ever free. Forthwith fierce and famous waxed the mighty man. Ah, what a height of worship in this world he won! Siegfried men did call him, that same champion good. Many a kingdom sought he in his manly mood, and through strength of body in many a land rode he. Ah, what men of valor he found in Burgundy! Before this noble champion grew up to man's estate, his hand had mighty wonders achieved in war's debate, whereof the voice of rumor will ever sing and say, though much must pass in silence in this our later day. In his freshest season, in his youthful days, one might full many a marvel tell in Siegfried's praise. What lofty honors graced him, and how fair his fame, how he charmed to love him many a noble dame. As did well befit him, he was bred with care, and his own lofty nature gave him virtues rare, and from his father's country grace and honor drew, to see him proved in all things so noble and so true. He now, grown up to youthhood, at court his duty paid. The people saw him gladly, many a wife and many a maid, wished he would offer thither, and bide forever there. They viewed him all with favor, whereof he well was aware. The child by his fond parents was decked with weeds of pride, and but with guards about him, they seldom let him ride. Uptrained was he by sages, who what was honor knew, so might he win full lightly broad lands and liegemen too. Now had he strength and stature that weapons well he bore, whatever thereto needed, he had of it full store. He began fair ladies to his love to woo, and they inclined to Siegfried with faith and honor true. Then bade his father Siegmund all his liegemen tell, with his dear friends to revel it would please him well. Where other kings were dwelling, with the tidings took their course. To friends and eke to strangers he gave both weed and horse. Whosoever was worthy to become a knight, for his lofty lineage did they each invite. High-born youths and valiant to the feastful board, with the young king Siegfried took they then the sword. Of that proud feast royal wonders one might say. King Siegmund and Queen Sieglind well might that day win honor for the bounty they showered with lavish hand, for which full many a stranger came flocking through their land. Sworded squires 400 rich raiment had to wear, with the noble Siegfried, full many a maiden fair, ceaseless plied the needle to please the warrior bold, precious stones unnumbered the woman set in gold. For gold was there in plenty, and as each could best, for the love of Siegfried they worked the jeweled vest. The host raised seats unnumbered for many a martial wight, on the fair midsummer, when his heir was dubbed a knight. Forthwith to the high-ministered flocked many a squire along, and many a knight of worship. To fitly train the young, the old should lend their service, which once to them was lent. They passed the hours in pastime and gentle merriment. But first to God's due honor a holy mass they sung, and then a press and struggle arose the crowd among, and then with pomp befitting each youth was dubbed a knight. In sooth, before was never seen so fair a sight. All ran at once where saddled many a war horse stood. In the court of Siegmund the tourney was so rude, that both hall and palace echoed far around, as those high-meted champions shocked with thundering sound. Old and young together fiercely hurtling flew, that the shivered lances swept the welkin through. Splinters e'en to the palace went whizzing many a one, from hands of mighty champions, all there was deftly done. The host bade cease the tourney, the steeds were led away. Then might you see, all shattered, how many a shield there lay, and store of stones full precious from bucklers' beaming sheen, in those fierce shocks were scattered upon the trampled green. Thence went the guests in order, and sat around the board. Many dainty dishes their wearied strength restored, and wine of all the richest their burning thirst allayed. To friends alike and strangers was fitting honor paid. Albeit in ceaseless pastime they sent the livelong day, the mummers and the minstrels never ceased their play. They flocked to golden largesse, largesse or largesse, I forget, largesse, a roving frolic band, and poured a flood of praises on Siegmund's fertile land. The king too, as his father to him before had done, enfeoffed with lands and castles Siegfried his youthful son, gifts to his sword companions he gave with liberal hand, so glad was he it pleased them to come into his land. The gorgeous feast it lasted till the 7th day was o'er. Sieglind the wealthy did as they did of yore. She won for valiant Siegfried the hearts of youth and old, when for his sake among them she showered the ruddy gold. You scarce could find one needy in all the minstrel band. Horses and robes were scattered with ever open hand. They gave as though they had not another day to live. None were to take so ready as they inclined to give. So was dissolved with honor the mighty festival. The high descended barons assembled there in the hall, that youth were well contented as lord to serve and sue, but that desired not Siegfried, the champion stout and true. While Sieglind and Siegmund yet lived and flourished there, full little recked their offspring the royal crown to wear. He only would be master and exercise command, gainst those whose pride or weaning disturbed the peaceful land. None ventured to defy him, since weapons first he took. The bed of sloth but seldom the noble knight could brook. He only sought for battles his prowess gifted hand, won him renown eternal in every foreign strand. Third adventure, how Siegfried went to Worms. I think we're just going to do this one last chapter, and then after this chapter I might look up on like Wikipedia, what is this book, when was it written, who wrote it, just some little backstory for this sampling series. How Siegfried went to Worms. 'Twas seldom teen or sorrow the warrior heart essayed. At length he heard the rumor, how a lovely maid in Burgundy was dwelling, the fairest of the fair. From her he won much pleasure, but dashed with toil and care. By fame her peerless beauty was bruited far and wide, nor less her lofty virtue and her pure virgin pride was day by day reported among the martial band. This drew guests every flocking to good King Gunther's land. For all the host of suitors that sought to bend her will, true to her own coy promise remained fair Kriemhild. So it must be Kriemhild. Yeah, Hild was already obvious. I'm just trying to see, because Hild would rhyme with will. So, sort of. It would sound along with will. True to her own coy promise remained fair Kriemhild. Still, that she, for all her wooing, would love vouchsafe to none. He was a distant stranger, who at last her favor won. Then sought the son of Sieglind to gain the haughty fair. The vows of other suitors to his were light as air. Such knight deserved to vanquish the coyest maiden's pride. Ere long the noble Kriemhild became bold Siegfried's bride. His kinsmen and his liegemen then gave him counsel true, that now, if he in honor were inclined to woo, he should be bound in wedlock, to no unequal make. Then said the noble Siegfried, sure will I take Kriemhild take. The bright Burgundian maiden, best gem of Gunther's throne, whose far-renowned beauty stands unapproached, alone. On earth nor king nor Kaiser lives there so proud, I ween, but he might deem him happy to win so fair a queen. Forthwith were the tidings to Siegmund's ear preferred. His anxious liegemen told him, From them his father heard the high design of Siegfried, it much to heart he laid, that he aspired so boldly to win so fair a maid. The news came eke to Sieglind, the noble monarch's wife. Full sore the mother trembled for her darling's life. For well she knew fierce Gunther and his vassals stern. My mouse is... okay, there we go. So strove they both, the champion, from his high emprise to turn. Then spake the valiant Siegfried, "Dearest father mine, the love of high-born woman forever I'll resign, rather than play the wooer, but where my heart is set." However, they sought to move him, but small success they met. "Since naught can then dissuade thee," outspake his royal sire, "glad am I, blood of Siegmund, should to such height aspire. And so thy hopes to forward, I'll do the best I can. Yet in his court has Gunther many a proud o'erweening man. E'en were there none but Hagen, that redoubted knight, in proud can match the proudest, the mightiest in might. So that my son, I fear me, this hour we both may rue, if our minds are settled, the stately maid to woo." "What can I befall us?" Siegfried made reply. "If that misproud Burgundian my friendly suit deny, be sure, as much and more too, I'll seize by strength of hand. In this I trust to strip him of liegemen and of land." "Little thy words content me," the hoary prince replied. "In the land of King Gunther thou sure durst never ride. If on the Rhine young Siegfried this tale were only told, Gunther and eke Gernot, I know them both of old. By force, fair son, assure thee, can none the maiden woo." Resumed the princely Siegmund, "This I have heard of for true. But if with knights to back thee thou shalt ride to Gunther's land, we'll friends enough, and forthwith I'll summon all the band." "'Tis not to me well pleasing," the fiery youth replied, "that I the Rhine should visit with warriors by my side, as in array of battle, and 'twould my honour stain, if I should need assistance the peerless maid to gain. I little care to win her save by my own good hand. With comrades but 11, I'll hence to Gunther's land. Thus far, father Siegmund, of you help I pray." Then his friends, to trim their garments, received striped furs and grey. To his mother Sieglind the heavy news they bore. The queen straight for Siegfried began to sorrow sore. She shuddered lest the loved one should all untimely die by the fierce knights of Gunther, and wept full bitterly. Then in haste went Siegfried, where she her moan did make, and thus his sobbing mother tenderly bespake. "Weep not for me, dear mother, in better hope repose. Count me forever scatheless, in midst of 1,000 foes. So give me all that needful through Burgundy to ride, that I and mine may journey with such fair weeds supplied, as best become my companions of high degree to wear, and from my heart I'll thank thee for all thy love and care. Since naught avails to stay thee," so spake his mother mild, "I'll equip thee for the journey, my dear, my only child, thee and thy bold companions, and send thee richly dight with weeds the best and fairest that e'er were worn by knight." Then to the queen young Siegfried in duty bent him low, and said, "Upon this journey I would not that we go more than 12 together, so these with robes provide. Full fain am I to witness how stands it with my bride." Fair woman at the needle were sitting night and day, scarcely could a seamstress her hands on pillow lay, till robes were worked for Siegfried and all his company. The youth was ever yearning to start for Burgundy. His sire prepared his armor, and nothing left undone, that he might leave his country as fitted Siegmund's son. Well tempered were their breastplates that flashed against the light, of proof were their morions, their bucklers broad and bright. Their way they now were ready to Burgundy to take. Then man and wife were heavy with sorrow for their sake, lest evil should befall them and bar their homeward road. With weapons and apparel the heroes bade the sumpters load. High-mettled were their chargers, gold bright their riding weed. None ever rode more proudly, little were their need. Then did noble Siegfried and that fair company that with him leave were taking, all bound for Burgundy. The king and queen, each weeping, gave him leave to part, and he to both gave comfort, all with a loving heart. Weep not, said he, dear parents, of better courage be. I'm safe wherever I travel, so take no thought for me. Ah, woe were then the warriors, and wept too many a maid. Their hearts, I ween, the future in deepest gloom arrayed, and told them from that journey many a dear friend would bleed. Full cause had they for sorrow, it brought them woe indeed. On the 7th fair morning, by worms, along the strand in nightly guise were pricking the death-defying band. The ruddy gold fare glittered on every riding vest. Their steeds were meetly governed, all pacing soft abreast. Their shields were new and massy, and like flame they glowed. As bright too shone their helmets, while bold Siegfried rode. Straight to the court of Gunther, to woo the stately maid. I never looked on champions so gorgeously arrayed. Down to their spurs, loud clanging reached. The swords they wore, sharp and well-tempered lances the chosen champions bore. 1, 2 spans broad or better did Siegfried sternly shake, with keen and cutting edges grim and ghastly wounds to make. Their golden-colored bridles firm they held in hand, silken were their poetrolls, so rode they through the land. On all sides the people to gaze on them began, then many of Gunther's liegemen swift to meet them ran. Many a haughty warrior, stout squire and hardy knight, went to receive the strangers as fitting was and right, and as to guests high honored did courteous service yield, their steeds held as they lighted, and took from each his shield. They were in act the chargers to lead away to stall, when the redoubted Siegfried quick to them did call. Nay, leave us here the horses, we look not long to stay. Anon with my companions I shall wend upon my way. Affairs of high concernment this squadron hither bring, so whoso knows straight tell me where I may find your king, the wide-renowned Gunther, who resides in Burgundy. Then one who near was standing thus answered courteously, If you would find the monarch, you need not long to wait. In yonder hall at leisure myself, I left him late. Begirt with all his warriors, there you may feast your sight, and sooth you'll find about him full many a stately knight. Now, to great King Gunther were the tidings told, that there had journeyed thither hardy knights and bold, clad in flashing armor and glittering vesture gray, but who and whence the strangers could no Burgundian say. Much wondered the monarch whence came the gallant band, that with so fair equipment had reached Burgundian land, and with so massy bucklers that none could tidings bring of those heroic strangers, but little pleased the king. To Gunther then made answer the knight of Metz or Twine, a warrior bold and mighty, and of the loftiest line. Since none of us can tell you who these same knights may be, send for my uncle Hagen, let him strangers see. He knows the proud and puissant of every foreign land, so we, what now we guess not, from him shall understand. Him and his warlike vassals the impatient king obeyed call, and soon redoubted Hagen strode towering through the hall. We're already at page 30 and we haven't finished this chapter, so I'm going to just quick see how many more pages before this ends. Okay, a whole bunch. Okay, we're not going to go that far to figure out how long it takes, but we're just going to finish page 30. What would the king with Hagen, the warrior made demand? Here in my house are wanderers from some far distant land. Unknown to all around me, observe the strangers well, and if thou ever hast seen them, the truth good Hagen tell. That will I straight, said Hagen, to a window then he went, and his eyes attentive on the strangers bent. Well pleased him their fair vesture, and well their armor sheen, yet sure the like he never in Burgundy had seen. Whencever come these champions, whom chance to Rhineland brings, kings might they be, said Hagen, or messengers of kings. How highly bred their chargers, how gorgeous their array. Wherever lies their country, high-mettled lords are they. All right, we're gonna stop there for Nibelungenlied. And let's talk a little bit about that. So, um, what did I think? It's a little bit better than I thought it'd be. I thought it wasn't too horrible to read. There's plenty of words I don't know, and abbreviations for words that I'm not entirely sure. Like when it was like E apostrophe ER, like I don't, not entirely sure. I just try to flow with it and such. But overall, I actually felt like I was following this, and I wasn't able to follow every book I've read so far in the longing. And so what I think I got was that it's sort of telling us in the first chapter. It's sort of foreshadowing that whoever marries the girl in the first chapter is going to end up dying, and then and it's about how the girl, like, she feels she doesn't want to get married, and she has a point of pride that she doesn't want a man to fuck up her life. And then the second chapter is about this other guy in this other kingdom who and this he wants to marry her, and he thinks he can pull it off. And then the third chapter being titled "How He Meets His End" or whatever it was titled, yeah, it's reminding us that yeah, this guy is going to die, and the whole chapter is his parents are telling him you should bring a whole bunch of people because they might kill you, and he's like, I don't want to bring a whole bunch like an army over there because it's gonna like scare them, and it's gonna be like I'm forcing myself on this girl. So I'm just gonna take a small band of knights over there, and hopefully I'll woo her heart. So that's, and I assume this chapter is probably long because it's going into detail about how this guy's gonna die. I guess maybe for all I know, it could be the whole rest of the book. But uh, let's just skip forward a bunch and see. Did we skip? See how many more pages would I have had to go through before we got to the next chapter? Ooh, was that it? No, that was just a do 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 do. Ooh, was that it? Yes. Okay, it would have been another like 20 pages straight. So yeah, I'm glad we stopped there for now. But this is something that I could theoretically. This isn't a slog to get through. This isn't horrible. I could theoretically read this without too much trouble. But let me quickly, I'm gonna on my phone check Wikipedia, and I'm going to see if we can get some basic ideas about background on this book, like when it was written and all that. 1 second. Nibelungenlied. Okay, here's the Wikipedia page. Nibelungenlied uh, is a epic. It's an epic written around 1200 in Middle High German. Well, it's translated fairly nicely to the point where I can understand it, so I like that. Its anonymous poet was likely from the region of Passau. Where is that? It's somewhere in Germany. Based on oral tradition, da, 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 has some of its origin in historic events of the 5th and 6th centuries, spread throughout Europe. Split into 2 parts. I'm not going to check what the next part is, because that might be spoilers. First heroic epic put into writing in Germany. Okay, well, that seems like enough of a little bit of background. That's kind of interesting. I feel like I definitely could actually read this. This is potentially something I'll come back to, potentially. But I'm going to leave this episode here. And in the next episode, we'll try whatever the next thing is that will be long. See you then. Thanks for listening. Bye.